In our previous episode, we left off with the idea that hunting might actually be beneficial to some of the wildlife in Indian forests. In this episode, we look at what happened immediately after India became an independent country. Remember in 1947, when India was free of British rule, life was a bit of a struggle for a lot of Indians. So the leaders of the country had to ensure people had enough food to eat. They all had a place to live. They all had a job that could help them earn money. So conserving our forests and animals, those may not have been as critical to them at that juncture. Would you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is exactly what happened for a while. Locals who lived in and around forests, or even people who lived a little farther away, hunted for our wildlife. One of the most widely hunted creature was a tiger. What do you think people hunted a tiger for?
I think for its skin.
Another very popularly hunted creature was the rhino. What do you think a rhino was hunted for?
Horn.
And elephants also were widely hunted.
For its tusks.
For the tusks.
For the tusks, yeah. Crocodiles and snakes also used to be hunted.
I think for the skin again, or maybe their teeth also.
And snake venom is used for many medical purposes.
Absolutely right, yes. All of these were commonly hunted. Even tortoises used to be hunted. Do you know why?
For their shells.
Yeah, for their shell and even for their meat, apparently. In the midst of all of this, there were very, very few people who were paying attention to the precipitously low numbers of wildlife in our forests. So in this episode, we are going to talk about a few people who are remarkable people who worked day and night tirelessly towards getting the attention of the leaders of the country to tell them, look, something's really wrong with the wildlife in our forests. We need to stop all that's going on right now. For all our listeners who are listening to this episode is part 2 of our wildlife series. In part 1, we spoke about hunting in British India. This is part 2, and this is your host Sangeeta from What's New Today, a podcast for kids and families. Joining me in this episode, you must have already heard 3 different voices, so let me introduce them to you.
My name is Arav Singh Mandral and I study in 5th grade in Bal Bharti Public School, Dwarka, Delhi. I am 10 years old.
Hello everyone, my name is Anaya Rawat. I study in class 6th of Bal Bharti Public School, Dwarka. I live in New Delhi and I really enjoy reading and dancing.
Hi, my name is Priya Taneja. I'm in 6th A, Bal Bharti Public School, Dwarka. I really enjoy reading the most.
It's wonderful to hear all 3 voices. Welcome, Arav, Anaya, and Tia. I know you all said that you love reading. Have you read stories about wildlife, poachers, hunting, any such stories?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. When I was little, I had a small book. In that book, it was mentioned why each and every animal was hunted. And that's how I got my knowledge why elephants are hunted, tigers are hunted, crocodiles and etc. are hunted.
You're talking about being hunted by humans, right? Not by other creatures in the forest.
Well, each other as well.
The whole ecosystem, okay. Arav, what did you read about?
Ma'am, I read about how poaching is done, why elephants are killed, and why tigers and rhinoceros.
Wow, these were stories you read.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember the name of the story so we can recommend it to our listeners?
Ma'am, no, ma'am.
Don't remember. Okay, that's fine. It's nice that there are stories that also sensitize children to how poachers can hurt animals in our forests. But before Arav and Tia and Anaya could be sensitized, the leaders of India had to be sensitized, right? That poachers were hurting the wildlife in our forests. So the first person we're going to be talking about is a man who gifted the Prime Minister of India a basket full of tiger cubs on her birthday. Who is it and why do you think he gifted Indira Gandhi a basket full of tiger cubs on her birthday?
Ma'am, his name was Kailash Shankla.
I think that he gave Indira Gandhi a basket full of cups to help her remind that they are going to be extinct and we need to save them.
That is my guess too. I don't have Kailash Sankla's word here. Why exactly he gifted? Kailash Sankla was the first person in India to have done a countrywide survey. And he went from forest to forest to forest in India and he counted the number of tigers. He found out that there were just about 1,400 tigers left somewhere in the late 1960s or early 1970s. Whereas India had had 40,000 tigers just in the year 1900. And we had just about 1,400 tigers left. You can take a big printout or you can draw a chart and you can take it to Indira Gandhi and show her, ma'am, the number of tigers have gone down from 40,000 to 1,400. And you can also give her a basket full of tiger cubs to say, look, these are some of the last few cubs left in this country. We need to do something to preserve them. That could have been another way for him to drive home the point that tigers were seriously endangered. Do you know anything else about Kailash Sankla? Why did he start becoming so caring about tigers specifically?
I think that there was a part in which he said that he had killed a tiger and he still remembered the fresh morning and the eyes he saw, the sadness in the tiger. So since then he had a passion for saving them.
That's what even I've read. So in the 1950s, when he had the authority to both hunt animals and the authority to give others permits to hunt animals, one day I think he too went inside a forest reserve in Sariska and he killed a tiger. The sentence he writes in one of his memoirs is very moving. Like you rightly said, he says, I remember vividly the look on the tiger's eyes. It was almost like it was telling me, why did you kill me? What harm did I do to you? I am living in the forest, living my life. I'm not hurting you in any way. Why did you have to kill me? And from that day on, Kailash Sankla decided that he would dedicate his life to saving tigers. One last story that I found very moving is about what he did in the zoo of Delhi. So have any of you gone to zoos before?
I have.
I have.
Okay. Have you been to
I have as
circuses?
well, but I was quite little.
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, I have been to circuses.
What do you think is the difference between a circus and a zoo in terms of what an animal does?
An animal in a circus does performance to entertain the crowd in the circus, and ma'am, an animal in the zoo, ma'am, he roams around freely in his cage and does whatever he wants and gets food.
Do we all agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Tia's unconvinced. What do you want to say, Tia?
Ma'am, I just think that in the zoo, they're practically caged. I've seen most animals are quite angry at each other and just want to get out. There was a story that Naya said that when Kailash killed the tiger, he saw the vivid look in the tiger's eyes. So I think that's probably, and that's the same look that each animal has in the zoo.
I think both of you are right. So you may be surprised in hearing this. In the 1950s and 60s, in some zoos, especially I believe in the zoo in Delhi, it was common for animals to perform when the audience came to see the animal from, when they were walking from one zoo to zoo. Kailash Sankla was the man who put an end to it. He said, if you want to come and see the animal, you're welcome to come. But I'm not waking up a sleeping tiger or a sleeping elephant and ask them to do a bunch of tricks. If they're sleeping, you will see them sleeping.
Wow!
So he made that very important path-breaking change in Indian zoos. I don't think any of us has seen an animal performing in a zoo, have we?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Yeah. Are you happy?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we have one man to thank. Kailash Sankala. And if you Google Tiger Man of India, that is the name that will crop up. Now, moving on to another person, was a man who also goes by the name Bird Man of India. What do we know about him?
Ma'am, he is Salim Ali. Ma'am, when Salim was a 10-year-old boy, ma'am, he saw a flying bird and shot it down. Now, ma'am, Salim was very tender at the heart, so he quickly ran and picked the bird up. Ma'am, it looked like a house sparrow, but it had a strange yellow shade on the neck. So, Salim took the bird to his uncle Amiruddin and asked for the bird's kind.
I have just a quick question. In the early part of the story, you were telling me that Salim Ali shot a bird. And then you said he was tender at heart. Do you think a boy who's tender at heart would shoot a bird?
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah, Tia.
At the time, wasn't there lots of pressure for boys to kill, hunt, and etc.?
I don't know if there was any pressure though from his uncle, but certainly it was very common in those days for people to take something called an air gun and shoot birds, and they would take that bird and roast it and eat it. So one would imagine he lived or he grew up somewhere deep inside a forest. Is that how y'all are imagining Salim Ali now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
No, he grew up in Mumbai. It was a city, full-fledged city even then. So what I'm trying to say is, in the late 1800s, right, in British India, it was not unusual even for people living in cities to kill birds. They know that's what they did. If they had to eat a bird, they would kill it. So while everybody else around him, other children around him were killing birds just to eat, he was always also curious about the bird. So when he noticed that this bird looks different, and he took it to his uncle to ask him, what bird is this? And his uncle said, I don't know the answer to this. So whom did his uncle send him to?
Ma'am, his uncle sent him to W.S. Millard. Ma'am, he was the honorary secretary of the Bombay Natural History Society. Millard took young Salim to see many stuffed birds, and ma'am, when Salim saw a bird similar to the house sparrow, he got very interested and visited the society frequently.
Gradually, Salim Ali started developing an interest in identifying birds, observing their behavior. He was now no longer that keen on hunting the bird, killing it and eating it, but he wanted to know how birds behave. What was of great help to a 10-year-old boy or a 12-year-old boy was the access he got to the Bombay Natural History Society, which had a lot of big books. And so he had a free access to it. Whenever he wanted, he'd go look at the book. And so that's how he learned how to identify so many different birds. If you all want to know, if you wanted to go out and identify a bird in today's day and age, in 2023, do you think you need to go to a place like a Bombay Natural Society?
No, ma'am, we can just simply Google it.
Google it. Okay, what would you do to Google it?
We could click a photo of it, because there's an option in Google in which you can click a photo and then search.
We can use ChatGPT. I think we can paste a pic there.
You'll paste a pic of the bird on ChatGPT and you'll find out, no?
Yeah.
I love how you all know how to become a Salim Ali.
Yeah, I had a doubt. If Salim Ali was so interactive with birds, what is his connection with tigers?
No connection at all. So we are talking not just about people who've conserved tigers. We are talking about people who helped conserve many different kinds of living creatures. We are talking about Salim Ali's story because he helped conserve India's birds. So Salim Ali was the first person in India who walked across the length and the breadth of the country, and he counted the number of birds. He registered which species of birds lives in which part of the country. Can you see in any similarity with Kailash Sankala there?
Yes, ma'am, because Kailash Shankla also did a survey in every part of India listing the number of tigers he found there.
Ma'am, and Salim Ali was the first man to do systematic bird surveys.
Yep, absolutely. And just like Kailash Sankla did everything he could to protect tigers, Salim Ali campaigned to create one of India's best bird sanctuaries.
Ma'am, Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary.
Yeah. Yeah. So Salim Ali actually campaigned to create many bird sanctuaries. Bharatpur was one of the first. There's also a bird sanctuary in Karnataka called the Ranganatittu Bird Sanctuary. It's not very far from Bangalore. Even that is in existence thanks to him. There's a very beautiful national park in Kerala, which is called the Silent Valley National Park.
And people were going to destroy it to build many cities, buildings and shops. But ma'am, Salim Ali helped to stop the destruction of the Silent Valley National Park.
Yeah, again, just like Kailash Sankla went and spoke to Indira Gandhi, he too took very, very strong stands with the political leaders of India, telling them, look, even the birds have to be protected. You know, right after Indian independence, when people were killing tigers and crocodiles and all, they were also shooting a lot of birds. So Bharatpur was losing a lot of birds. So Salim Ali was the birdman of India who helped us protect our birds. Okay, coming to the last person we're going to be talking about in this recording was the man who was able to change all of this by bringing a law. Who are we talking about?
Ma'am, we're talking about M.K. Ranjit Singh. Ma'am, I know that he joined the Indian Administrative Services in 1961.
He was born in a princely family. He was born to royalty. He was born in a princely family in Gujarat. And he too was trained to hunt. So if you see Kailash Sankla, if you see Dr. Salim Ali or even M.K. Ranjit Singh, many of them began their lives hunting because it was very common for people to do it. But like many of these predecessors of his, he too had a change of heart. And he wanted to bring a change. So in the first part of this episode series, I'd spoken about how he had the opportunity to kill a tiger, but he did not. And what happened after that is something you can hear if you'd like to, in going back to that episode. Coming back to M.K. Ranjit Singh, he was like Tia just said, he was part of the Indian Administrative Services and he was part of India's Forest Services. Later, in the 1970s, around the time when Kailash Sankla had just given the tiger cubs as a gift, and little after Dr. Salim Ali had protested against destroying Silent Valley National Park and saying Bharatpur needs to be preserved, the birds there have to be given a sanctuary and all of that, M.K. Ranjit Singh was a man who was asked by Indira Gandhi in a meeting, how can we preserve India's wildlife? If you had been an Indian Forest Service person and the Prime Minister of the country was asking you this question, keep in mind this is a time when hunting was a perfectly accepted activity in India. What would you have said?
Ma'am, I think that we should have made awareness about that how hunting animals can danger humans also. So maybe people would listen about that and think again before hunting other animals.
Yeah, I think that if there was something to be made to protect this wildlife, we should have made a rule, like with a really high fine.
Ma'am, but as you said and like you said before our conversation, that keeping in mind that hunting was very popular, so it could be that people might have started to protest against it. And for many people, hunting is the only source on which they survive. So if they do not hunt, they cannot eat. So it could be that they might protest.
Absolutely right. And that is exactly what happened. What Tia had suggested, which is you needed to bring a law which put a complete end to hunting. That was the only way India could have protected its wildlife. exactly like what Anaya said, a lot of people protested because there were traders who had made all their money in life by selling tiger skins or, a tortoise meat. And suddenly you turn around and say, your source of earning money is illegal. Please go find something else that you can do. It's going to be really hard. What the government then did was they put their foot down and they said, we understand that is your sole, that was your sole source of earning money, but the loss to the country was going to be far bigger if we continued letting y'all hunt all these creatures, because in a few years nothing was going to be left for them anyway, right? But there is one community for which an exception was made, and they said you can hunt. Which community do you think they would have allowed? Can you guess which the third group was?
Non-vegetarians.
Non-vegetarians. They didn't need to go personally take their gun, go inside the forest and hunt for a deer. No, it wasn't non-vegetarians. But very close. Guess? Any guesses? No?
Ma'am, villagers and tribals?
Very close. Certain tribes in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands were allowed to hunt because these tribes lived deep inside the forest. They had no connection, no communication, interaction with the rest of the world. They went, they hunted, they ate.
Ma'am, they still use primitive tools and primitive ways to live.
Yeah, that's true. Even today, if you go to Andaman and Nicobar Islands, you can find these tribes. None of us should actually go to the islands where they live because they can harm us, certain select tribes. So they were allowed to hunt because they were not hunting, like the poachers who wanted the skin to sell and earn profits. They hunted for their survival. And they were careful in how they hunted. So they will not disrupt the ecosystem so badly that they'll kill all the tigers. They would hunt just enough for their survival, and they never sold what they hunted to outsiders. So that one community was allowed to hunt. So 1972 was the year when the Wildlife Protection Act was passed, and from that year on, hunting ended in India. How did you like the stories about these three men, Salim Ali, Kailash Sankla and M.K. Ranjit Singh? What did you find most interesting about them?
About Salim Ali, I thought that he would have like a tragic history. Like he was very attached to a pet bird, and suddenly somebody shot it when it was flying away, running away, and then he decided, I'm going to protect birds.
And it turned out that he'd had a very happy childhood, shooting and hunting birds. And then all it took was a book in an encyclopedia, and he started becoming a bird conservationist. Lovely. Anything that I said that surprised you?
And not much.
Not much.
I'm not.
You are not surprised at all that people used to hunt for wildlife and birds indiscriminately.
Ma'am, that I was surprised.
Okay.
I found it very interesting, like how they were all interconnected. Like they had killed someone and then they had a passion for saving them. Then they had surveys and all.
Nice. I love all your observations. So hopefully we'll all continue to carry the baton that has been passed on by people like them. Dr. Salim Ali is no longer alive. M.K. Ranjit Singh is very much alive. You can listen to his interviews on YouTube if any of you likes to. In fact, a lot of stories and information that I have found for this entire wildlife series, I got them from one of the memoirs that he has written. It's a fascinating memoir. I don't know if children of your age can read it, but if any adults would like to read it, I'm happy to leave a link to this. You can buy this book on Amazon or any of the online sources. But in case you'd like to just find out more about the entire wildlife journey of India, I highly recommend you come back and listen to the rest of the episodes in this podcast series. The next episode is about Project Tiger, which was launched immediately after the Wildlife Protection Act. Join us in that series, which will be released next Monday. Thank you so much, Tia, Arav, and Anaya. I had a wonderful time chatting with the three of you. I hope you enjoyed this too.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Was this like what you thought a podcast recording would be?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, I thought you were a robot.
I was a robot.
Yeah. I thought you were a robot. First, I had to fill like all the information I had. Then you would come, and then you would all take the information, make us a script, and then we would like tell them like.
Ma'am, I thought that you will ask us everything we had learned, and then, ma'am, you would wrap up the episode.
You'll come prepared with a speech.
Yes, ma'am.
That is not what we did. Okay, what about Anaya?
Ma'am, I thought that everything would be systematic, like you would be telling us what to do and then we would. But instead, here we just said what we thought. We had a chance to talk about our own opinions and not what you sent us.
So you thought all along all podcasts were scripted?
Yes, ma'am.
No, not a single podcast that I have hosted so far has been scripted. So I'm happy that we can lay that speculation to rest. Thanks once again for all the research that the three of you did. So I'm glad that you spent some time reading about each of these people, and we got to share our honest opinions about them. There is only one part that I do script at the end of every episode, which is I request my co-host to say thanks for listening. So can we say thanks for listening once together?
Thanks for listening.
Wait. I'll go 3, 2, 1, go, and then we'll say it together. Shall we?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Ma'am.